You're listening to Living Free, your podcast for a life full of freedom and magic. I'm your host, Tanya Hirsch, and I hope that every time you listen, you feel a little bit more inspired to follow your intuition and to create a life beyond your wildest dreams. Welcome back to the Living Free podcast. I'm so happy you're here, you're listening. And this episode, I want to dive a little bit into my personal journey. I want to reintroduce myself to those who are new because I just transitioned my podcast and my work, my business into English. A huge step for me, but I felt this soul calling to do it, and I want to let you know how this journey has been for me because as you might know, I just moved to French Polynesia, an island called Moorea, a place my soul has been longing for so long. And I want to dive a little bit into the whole story behind it because all of you who don't speak German might not know the whole story behind it, and it's important for the rest of my journey. So it all started about 10 years ago, where I started to get these visions in my head. And I'm not a visual person, so for me this was very special. I can never imagine things when I close my eyes. I have a hard time to follow visual meditations because I can feel a lot. Like, feeling is my thing. I can feel so much, but imagining is just not so easy for me. But these visions I received were so crystal clear. I saw turquoise water, white beach, but I never knew what it was. I just felt this soul longing to be there because I grew up in Germany with my grandparents. When I was 1 year old, I started to travel a lot, like every single weekend, every holiday. We went on our caravan and drove around Europe, and I always grew up very free and very wild. Like, I could do whatever I wanted to, and I think that's part of why I became the person I am today. Or I allowed myself to be this person again. I tried to fit in for a long time, but I saw it doesn't work. So now I'm really stepping into this wild version of myself again. But the visions I got were so clear, and they became clearer every single time. So maybe every few months I would get these pictures in the most crazy moments. And I never felt really comfortable living in Germany. Like, I didn't connect so much with most of the people. Winter has always been a huge struggle for me, even as a child. It just felt like a rape for my body. I didn't want to go out when it's cold. I didn't want to wear shoes. I think I was born for the island life, but I tried to fit in a society that was never meant for me. So I followed the normal path. I became a teacher for my passions, so I thought I chose it. I thought it's my dream job to teach cooking and handcraft, which are my biggest passions still. But it made me feel caged. It made me feel tamed. It made me feel like this wild part of my soul can't express itself because I'm restricted to where I am, to what I have to do. And even though I had a lot of freedom with what I was teaching and I had a lot of holidays where I could travel, I felt I'm a different person every time I go to places where there were open-hearted people, where there was beaches and sun, and where I could be barefoot. I was feeling like a different person. So I knew deep inside that something has to change. I knew it all the way. I remember moments in school where I was looking at the watch and thinking, oh my God, when is this over? Time is running so slow. And I feel my soul was talking to me in these moments, and she said, what are you doing here? You're wasting your energy, you're wasting your potential, you're here for something bigger, you have to move into the world. But I was like, no, I can't do it, I'm too afraid. Like, how can I survive? How can I make money? And I allowed myself to stay in this cage, which was comfortable in the beginning because it also gave me a lot of safety. But at the same time, I felt so restricted. I felt so small, and I felt like my wings cannot spread to fly. And I felt ready to fly. I felt like a bird in a cage, not being able to fly. And so, yeah, it's a long story, but to make it short, my body didn't do it anymore. I became very noise sensitive. I couldn't teach in school anymore. I had a really rough few years. I knew I had to do something different, but I didn't know how. So this whole healing journey began around 13 years ago, and it continued every single year. And there's a lot of pieces to the story. Like, my first plan to escape the school system was I opened a yoga studio with my ex-partner 6 years ago. And I didn't have a yoga teacher training, so I just jumped into this huge step of opening a big yoga studio we had around 10 teachers, 100 square meters. I had no teacher training, so I jumped into teaching, managing a studio, creating the studio. We did everything on our own. And I was terrified to teach, but I thought, oh, maybe it's taking me away from school. Long story short, I broke up with my boyfriend because it was a very toxic relationship. I found myself smashed into pieces. I never got paid, so I lost everything, and I lost faith also. I thought, oh my God, I worked so hard. I put my heart into it. How could this not work out? I felt like the world is against me, and I was in this victimhood, and I thought, this shouldn't have had happened. This is not fair. I just accepted that I'm going to be a teacher for the rest of my life. I thought, this path is not for me. And I didn't teach for a while. I did a yoga teacher training in Costa Rica just for myself. I healed a lot of shit. I went through a big transformation, and finally I was able to put these pieces that were smashed all over the floor. I felt worthless. There was no self-love, into a new beautiful thing. But this time I used gold to fill the spots between the pieces. So I created a new version of myself, and I could finally see why these things were happening. So I had to feel so worthless, and my self-love had to be crushed, because I noticed there actually was no self-love. I allowed these things. They didn't happen to me. I allowed to be treated this way. I allowed to be the world around me to be a mirror of how I was feeling inside. And I could dive into this for hours, but what I want you to know is that you can always change the way you feel inside by changing your inner world, by really diving deep, see the root cause of why you feel this way, and to see it has nothing to do with you, and deep inside you're 100% worthy. You're so lovable. And this was the whole beginning of my healing journey, of especially healing my feminine side. This has been the massive, most big part of my healing journey, to really dive into my feminine side, because I've spent so much time in my masculine side. And you might notice my brain is kind of all over the place. So sometimes I jump from story to story, but normally you always get the message. So I actually wanted to talk about the visions, and then I dove a little bit deeper into my journey. But now I'm going back to the visions. So these visions came up, and every time it was clearer. So first it was just a beach, and then I saw this cafe. Like I saw a vegan cafe that was on the beach. I saw every single detail, and I didn't know what it was. Like, I thought, oh, maybe I'm gonna open a beach cafe one day. And then it got clearer, and I saw it's a yoga space and a cafe. And now I can see it crystal clear that it's gonna be a retreat center. So I had my vision, and I had no idea how to get there, and I had no idea where this place was, because I traveled so much. That was one reason why I wanted to become a teacher, to travel, to see the world. And I traveled to, oh my God, my blueprint is not so good. I traveled so much. Like, seriously, I've seen so many places. And I never found my island. So I started to doubt it also, because I told this vision, I shared it with people, and they said, oh, you have to find this place within yourself. And then I thought, okay, maybe it's something I'm making up, something I hope it will rescue me, that I don't feel so weird in this world and that I don't belong. And then one day, it was bit more than a year, maybe 1.5 years ago, a friend of mine sent me a story of a adventurous travel blogger, and she was in Morea. And I just saw this picture, and I remember my body reacted so intense. I started crying immediately, like a messy cry where bubbles come out of your nose because it's so intense. But it wasn't a cry of sadness, it was a cry of relief and of joy and of, oh my God, this is my home. I know deep in my soul, I knew I had to go to this place. And I have a whole episode on this before I ever came here, talking about it. So it's really been a while since I knew I had to go there. And then COVID hit. I couldn't go. I quit my job as a teacher, which disappointed my grandparents a lot. And many people couldn't understand my journey. And then I went to Bali because French Polynesia was closed. I spent my winter there. And when I came back, I knew I had to go to Morea. So I haven't been there. I don't speak the language. It's one of the most expensive places in the world. But in my soul, I knew I will find a way to make it work. So I came back to Bali in May, beginning of May, I think. End of May. Yeah, it was end of May 2021. And I already came with this goal to sell everything I own. And in Bali, it's kind of the effect of osmosis. I think I'm going to do a whole episode on this because it's so powerful. But the people you surround yourself with have a massive impact on how you feel and how you show up in this world. And in Bali, I was really surrounded with women who already lived their purpose. Like, they went for their dreams, they've been through the whole journey, and I felt so empowered to do the same. And every time I told a story in Bali, people would say, oh, that's awesome, it's gonna be amazing, your retreat center is gonna be epic, I'm gonna visit you. And then I came back to Germany. And when I was landing, I saw I saw this face in the, when you land and you see the green fields, and there was a huge sad face and a snake carved into the field. And I thought, oh my God, this is not gonna be easy, I have to be tough. And it really was a huge struggle for me to be in Germany for 4 months before I left. Not only was the summer a really shitty one and it was like 10 degrees and rain all the time, but also being surrounded by people who are in this rat race, and I don't judge them, I've been there too, but to, always being in the doing and rushing and exhaust themselves. And I didn't see a spark of life in the eyes I was looking. I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Why is everyone like so unhappy and so stuck in their life? Because I know you don't have to be stuck, I just felt so like a unicorn between horses. That explains the feeling maybe. I felt like, why are you all why is everyone running? Like, slow down, enjoy the moment, connect on a deep level. And every person I told my dream, and I shared it on Instagram, and I shared it in my yoga classes, in my retreats, and most of the people, they don't say it, but as I told you, I can feel a lot. And the way people reacted, I could sense that they were thinking like, oh my God, she's crazy, she's doing a mistake, she's out of her mind, to move to a place you've never been before. Like, this intuition part, they don't have access to it, so they couldn't understand it. And then at the beginning, I was still in my Bali bubble, I was connected to my higher self, I was connected to my intuition, and I knew deep in my soul, this is my journey, I have to do it. It's not gonna be easy, but I have to do it. There was no doubt. And then what happened was, every person I met that had this fear inside of them. It felt like a black coat of fear and doubts, which were their fear, not mine, and they tried to pull it over me. And in the beginning, I was like, oh no, thanks, that's your coat, keep it. I'm gonna stay in my bubble. But after these months, it was like an osmosis effect, and I began to adapt to these fears, to these doubts. And oh my God, it really felt like I'm in a huge storm of my fears and doubts, and I found myself in these circles of why this is not right, why this is a huge mistake, why I shouldn't do it, but I pushed through and I did it anyway. So at the end, I was really exhausted. I was just living in survival mode, saying goodbye to all my loved ones, to my family, to everyone. Yeah, I think I cried almost every day, and I didn't know when I'm gonna see them, because I knew if I leave, I'm not gonna come back very soon. And then I sold everything I own, all these things. I love beauty. I love to create beauty. I love to have beauty around me. That's part of my purpose. So it was really hard to let these things go, because they all carry so much emotion, so many memories. But I had to. I just knew I had to. And I knew it was kind of a sacrifice, but not by giving it away, but by, it's like I knew all these people would enjoy these things, so I gave it away to only to people who I knew would appreciate what I created. Like I had this company called Yoga Crafts, where I created huge dream catchers and jewelry and candles with my friend, and I knew I had to let it go. I've put 2 years of my energy into it, but I knew that's a part I have to let go now. And so I almost gave them away for free, but it also fulfilled my heart, because I know a piece of my soul is living in these living rooms and in the yoga studios. And yeah, so I gave away every single piece I owned, except 2 boxes, which are my tax folders, and 1 emergency box with, like a hat and a winter jacket and shoes. And so my whole life fits into 1 backpack now. And I gave up my beloved apartment where I was living for 4 years. So many memories, so much part. It's a big part of who I am today, because of what happened in this flat. And in these 4 years, it was the biggest shift in my healing journey, in my transformation, and changing my whole life. And I bought a one-way ticket to get to Morea. And after this storm of fear and doubts, and I think I was just living in survival mode, really. My heart couldn't follow what was happening. It was just too much. And at the same time, like, I'm no longer living in Germany, so I had to do all these official things, going to the offices every day, and it was just not nice. And I also felt very lonely, because I felt like no one really gets what I was going through. Especially in Germany, my closest friends, they were busy, they didn't mean it, but I felt very, very lonely in these 4 months in Germany. And then, I came here. And the first time I saw Morea, it was just this overflowing feeling of coming home, of it's hard to describe with words, but I was crying. I saw this island and I knew this is where I belong. So I took the ferry, I drove to Morea. I arrived. The first few days I gifted myself with a very nice apartment, so I took the time to really be there, and I had this kind of a high phase where I felt like I was flying. I felt so free and happy. And then I moved into another apartment for a week before I moved into my long-term stay. And then I kind of fell into a hole, and I think it's been the deepest hole I've ever been in. I felt like everything that I've been going through these last 4 months came all at once, and I felt like parts of myself had to die to be able to live here. But it's not like you just remove your old skin and the new skin is beautiful like a snake. It was messy, it was painful, I felt lost. I felt like, who am I if I'm not the person I thought I was? Like, I used to make everyone feel good, to be the easy girl, to do everything on my own, and it suddenly didn't feel aligned anymore. I felt like my wild soul, my wild part wants to get back up and wants to connect to her desires and to go for it. And I don't want, yeah, I never wanted to make anyone feel bad, so I kind of always took it on myself. You know, if someone treated me bad, I found reason why this was and never allowed myself to feel either anger or sadness. I always, yeah, tried to make it with my own. And in this hole, I realized how much anger I was holding on, how much sadness I was holding on, and suddenly these pictures of the people I had in my life crushed, and I saw, like many of my good friends, how they weren't there for me when I needed them. For example, I saw my father, that always, like, the relationship with my father is really good, and I always thought he's the most amazing person and the coolest person on earth. And suddenly I felt this huge anger towards him because he never stood up for me. And this is very personal, but for the first time, I think I had this real access to anger. And it was really intense. Like, my business crushed. I was supposed to launch my cleanse retreat, a 10-day program that I've been doing for 2 years now. And last time I had 29 sisters joining, and this time I had 1 sign up. And first I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die on this island, you know. The doubts were so big and the fear was so big, and I thought, what did I do? I gave up a life for a place I haven't been. And then, yeah, I just surrendered to the state. I didn't resist it. I just allowed to be in the state of having no energy. There were days where I couldn't move my body. I stayed in bed until 12, had Nutella pancakes, and I just allowed myself to still be there for me, to hold myself, to talk good to me, to be with my emotions, even if it's really intense. And yeah, I remember it went maybe for 2 or 3 weeks, and it had ups and downs, but it was really, really, really hard for me. And one day, it was raining a lot as well. Maybe that didn't do a good thing to it as well. And one day, I hired a kayak and a stand-up paddle and went to these little islands that are close to here. And it's crazy because in this moment where we get so overwhelmed by our fear, by our doubts, we can't see the beauty around us. So even though I was surrounded by these massive mountains and this turquoise water, and I knew from my head it's beautiful and I should be grateful to be here, I couldn't feel it because I was so much in the storm of being confronted with my fears, and I didn't know how to get out. And in this moment on the stand-up paddle, there was a ray. There's been so many magical stories with rays, and one of them was on this stand-up paddle, turquoise water below me and this ray coming towards me, and I saw Morea from a little bit further apart, and I just cracked open. Like, after this big storm, it felt like a huge heart opening, and I felt like, wow, finally I can feel my soul again. And I started crying, but it was this crying of pure joy and gratitude. And I felt like, oh my God, I made it. I made this dream come true, even though it was probably the toughest leap of faith I've ever taken. I knew I made it, and I felt this proud of myself, and I felt the beauty of the water and the island and the magic, and I don't know what happened, but it really cracked me open. And this was like 10 days ago or so, and I know I'm not gonna stay forever in this state, but it really shifted something. It really shifted the way I feel. I feel like I'm so sensitive, receptive, and open right now. I can feel my intuition. I can feel and receive the beauty around me. I can see my power. I can see how I'm here to serve, and I'm magnetizing women into my field. I can receive the beauty in these little moments of life, when the wind touches my skin, when I eat a fruit, when I wake up and I know I'm here, I'm home, you know. So it has changed a lot, and there's been so many magical synchronicities, and I'm gonna dive. Maybe I'm gonna do a whole episode of just synchronicities and magical stories of what I'm experiencing here, but I just wanted to let you know how this journey has been, because I try to share it very authentically on social media. So when I don't feel good, I let you know, and if I feel good, I try to give from this place of overflow and to give a piece to you, you know. So I just wanted to let you know how this journey has been. It's really just a nutshell version. There's been a lot more to it, but it's what was coming up for me right now. And I just want you to know, wherever you are at your journey, that you're never stuck. If you're unhappy in your relationship, in your job, in the place you live, and you feel like you're running in circles, you're never stuck. You're never stuck. But if you choose to stay in it, then you continue to suffer. And sometimes it takes someone to tell you that it's possible. Someone who has been through what you are going through right now. And for the first time, I mean, I've done one-on-one coachings before. That was one big part of this journey too. Even though my business was falling apart, like I thought all the things I thought would make a lot of money to be able to live here would literally make no money. I knew I had to hire a business coach, and this woman came into my dream. I know it sounds crazy, and some of you might think, oh my God, who is this girl? But my soul told me to work with her, and I didn't even know she's a business coach. So I told her what I experienced, and she said, most of my clients find me in meditation or dreams. And we were just a perfect match. And it's a big investment, but it already pays back so much more. It's been intense. Like someone who gets you, who you feel inspired by and really dives deep with you, it changes everything you thought was possible. So I'm in this transition right now, and I feel very overflowing. I feel like I'm really in my power. I can give, and I feel like sharing it with the world. And so I decided to open up 2 spaces for one-on-one coachings. And I coached people before, but this time I really feel ready to dive deeper, to really transform, like guide people through transformation. So this is for 2 special souls. If you're listening and you feel a resonance within your soul, you can check it out on the link below. I will list it there, and we can make a call. If you feel like you're stuck and you really want to go for your desires, feel free to contact me. I'm really, really ready for you. And I also created a free feminine embodied yin class where you can step into your feminine magic and take a moment to tune inwards and to feel your desires, your feminine radiance. And I created this for you so you can get a glimpse of how powerful it is if you devote yourself to these feminine practices, like the rituals, the yin yoga, the meditation, everything that fills your cup up from the inside, doesn't take time away from you, because everything else you're doing it from a place of overflow if you give to yourself first. So this is for you. If you're a woman and you feel like you're always giving, you always exhaust yourself and never see yourself as a priority, this practice is for you. I'm also going to link it below, and I hope it helps you. I hope it inspires you and helps you to see your own beauty and your feminine magic. And I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I see you next week. Bye.